our agronomists who have a lot of experience in this, in their view, there is nothing obvious in the buds that suggests that they have been damaged. But
Right.
we've never had a situation where we've had such a late start to the rain followed by such a early end to the rain. So we can look back over 20 years and it doesn't really tell us what will happen in this circumstance. I don't think we'll know until December at the earliest. So, even though the forecasts are for very heavy rains over the next month, that may or may not materialize. We
Right.
don't know. And I think the one thing, if you look at last year, for instance, the drought was actually, it started off with a very delayed start to the rains in September, October, and the first half of November. That cost us, we reckon, about 7 million bags of crop potential for the 21-22 crop. The rains in December and January were very good. It is the rainy season. It does what it says on the label. But those rains finished early in Feb, March, April. And that affected the outturn yields. That's pretty crucial for the bean filling stage. So that had a further impact on 21-22. But in addition, the 22-23 crop cycle starts in last September. That's when the branches start growing between September and May. Now, it was an on-cycle crop. If we'd have had normal weather, we would have had big branches and plenty of potential. That potential was stunted by the lack of rain, first of all, the late start to the rain and the early end to the rain, because trees were actually focusing on protecting the cherries rather than the branches. So we know that over the last 12 months, the weather has had an adverse effect on 21-22 and 22-23 potential. And we've tried to quantify that. I think the interesting thing is what happens now regarding 22-23. We always felt with the underlying soil moisture deficit that if the rains didn't return in what was a normal fashion in the middle of September, we would have further problems with 22-23. And normally we don't think the rains need to return until the middle of October.
Okay.
In a normal year with normal underlying soil moisture, we wouldn't have been overly concerned. This year's different. We've got that, long-term underlying soil moisture deficit. The rains didn't return in the middle of September. We did a micro survey in the second half of the month, and we saw higher than normal levels of defoliation. We saw, low soil moisture in the farms. We believe that 22-23 has been further impacted, but it's relatively small. If we saw similar conditions this year to last year, where we had below average rains in October and the first half of November, then I think we really would have serious problems with 22-23, and also potentially with 23-24 branch growth. So, that would have been the worst case scenario. That seems to have been avoided. The rains, we've had good rains in the past week. I think we've had 50-60 millimeters. There will be a big flowering. If the follow-up rains carry on through October, then that flowering should survive. The cherries should set. I'm not overly concerned about November and December, because once the rains start, the rainy season, as I say, it does what it says on the label, it will rain. We reckon you need a minimum of 150 millimeters a month to maintain crop development. And it's very, very rare indeed that November, December, January fall short of that. Normally, they're well in excess of that. So I'm not overly concerned about November, December. The only issue that I am concerned about, when we went out into the field last month and we looked at the bud flowers, they seemed normal. We could see how big the branches were, we could see how many nodes there were, and we can, from that, build an expectation of the flowering and cherry set that we expect to see come December time. I think there is a risk that those bud flowers may have been damaged by the drought and they don't produce flowers and cherries in a normal fashion.
Yeah.
We will find out in December. I may be completely wrong on that. It may be perfectly normal and totally adequate. But I think that's, if in my view, that's the one risk that's still, given the change in the weather, that's the one risk that is still unanswered, and it won't be answered for at least another couple of months.